So the way that I'm going to structure this specific video, because of everything that happened today, and there was a lot that happened today, I'm going to break this up into the baseball and the extracurriculars. Let's start with the baseball. The Giants lose 6-4. They split the 4-game series here against the Philadelphia Phillies after taking 2 of 3 from the New York Yankees. They are now 4-3 on this road trip, which is impressive considering how good of a quality teams the Yankees and the Phillies both are. Jordan Hicks allows 5 runs in the first inning but bounces back and somehow manages to match his career high in innings in a single game, which is 7. He throws a career high 105 pitches. Entering play, he had only thrown 2 pitches that cracked 105 miles per hour, which might seem in sense a little odd considering, his reputation was a guy who threw hard, but obviously making the transition from starting to relieving, yada, yada, yada. Today, he threw 16 sinkers that hit at least 100 miles an hour, 13 of those being after the first inning, again, which he allowed 5 runs. But that 5-run first inning kind of puts the Giants in a hole they're not able to climb completely out of. Matt Chapman did hit a 2-run homer. Tyler Fitzgerald hit a solo homer, a continuation of the work that he's been doing on this New York road trip. But as far as the game itself, the Giants lose 6-4. In my opinion, that's the far less interesting part of today's game. The far more interesting part of today's game lies, as I mentioned, in the extracurriculars. And it was a very bad day to be a vegetarian at Citizens Bank Park today because there was a lot of beef. And there's a lot of layers to it. There's no just one through line. There's a lot of complexity, a lot of nuance to it. So the way this thing kind of started was in the bottom of the second inning. And again, bottom of the second inning, Jordan Hicks had just allowed 5 runs in the first inning. So Hicks is he's not exactly the happiest guy in the world having just allowed those 5 runs. He hits Trey Turner with an errant sinker that clocked in at 100.9 miles per hour. And I don't care who you are, if you get hit by a fastball at that velocity, you are not going to be happy. And Trey Turner was not happy. And his teammates were not happy. And Jordan Hicks, as I mentioned, was already not happy. You could go so as far as to say that he was mad, and he was pitching mad because, again, he allowed 5 runs in the first inning. So now we're in a situation where the Phillies are mad at Hicks. Hicks is mad because of what has transpired in the first inning. No one's happy. So let's move over to the bottom of the 4th inning. It's a 1-2 count. Hicks is facing Alec Bohm. Hicks begins to pitch, and he throws a sinker 100 miles an hour right over the heart of the plate. The problem is that home plate umpire Phil Cuzzy granted Alec Bohm time, so the pitch is null and void. And again, as I mentioned, Hicks already not happy, so he has some words for home plate umpire Phil Cuzzy. They go back and forth, and it's just, there's a lot of, vitriol is a very strong word, but there's a lot of unpleasantness that's going on in the infield at this point in time. On the very next pitch, Hicks induces a 4-6-3 double play. Casey Schmidt makes a very solid pick at first base. Go read the story that I did on Casey Schmidt's transition to first base yesterday if you haven't. But even with the double play, Hicks was still visibly frustrated to the point where third baseman Matt Chapman and backup catcher Sam Huff had to visit him on the mound to kind of calm him down. And Hicks said after the game that, Chapman was just trying to not just calm him down, but make sure that he didn't get thrown out of the game because they needed Hicks to provide as much length as possible, especially after a game yesterday where Lou Trevino had to pitch 2 innings, Camilo Doval threw an inning, and Spencer Bivens had to throw 2 innings. So there was a couple guys in the bullpen that likely were not available today. We fast forward to the 7th inning. Let's stay in the 4th inning. Hicks strikes out Bryson Stott. As Hicks is walking back to the dugout after striking out Stott, has a little more words. Now we fast forward to the 7th inning. Hicks entering this inning was at 94 pitches. It was a little bit of a surprise that Melvin left him in the game, but again, you consider that they had used a fair amount of their bullpen yesterday. They wanted to get Hicks to go as long as possible. He ends up needing I think it was 11 pitches to complete the 7th inning. Pitches into the 7th inning, or completes the 7th inning for just the second time as a Giant. And again, as he is walking off the field, him and the Phillies dugout are chirping. Again, not exactly the happiest of campers, these two parties. And as Hicks is walking back to the dugout, it initially seemed that Cuzzy was instigating, but what was actually happening was Cuzzy was kind of getting in the middle of it to make sure that things didn't escalate further, and they didn't. Hicks didn't get thrown out. No one on the Phillies get thrown out. Just a bunch of unhappy campers, but nobody gets thrown out. And you would think that as far as the beef of this game, that would be the end of it, but that's the end of the Hicks and Phillies saga. We get to the top of the ninth inning, and we have a whole new saga unfold that no one really kind of saw, at least in my opinion, in real time. It kind of took everything. It kind of took a little bit of retrospect. Jung Hoo Lee comes into the game as a pinch hitter, was initially off in center field with Luis Matos getting the start, but Jung Hoo Lee enters the game as a pinch hitter. With the count at 1-1 against Jose Alvarado, Alvarado throws a sinker at 100 miles an hour, and it clips the zone. It's a very clear strike. Lee adjusts his helmet. This is something that he always does. If you go watch every Giants game, pretty much between every pitch, he adjusts his helmet in some capacity. Cuzzy sees this, and he thinks that Lee is tapping his helmet, which during spring training, that would be the way you signal to challenge a call. Obviously, we're not in spring training anymore. Major League Baseball has yet to institute the ABS challenge system. So what umpires have done, or what umpires have been told, from my understanding, is they're now perceiving any tapping of the head as a hitter arguing a ball and strike without saying a word. It's kind of saying like, hey, I want to challenge this call because you made a bad call. That was not Lee's intention. So in the middle of the plate appearance, Cuzzy is telling Lee, do not do that. Lee is in turn telling Cuzzy, I don't speak English. And so you have this just miscommunication that's happened because of the language barrier between Lee and Cuzzy. And again, like I can't forget how, anyway, whatever, the at-bat ends. The outcome of the at-bat is not as important to what happens when the game ends. The game ends, and the Giants, they're filing back to their clubhouse. And the way to get to the umpire's room is the same place. Cuzzy ends up talking to like this scrum of Giants players. And again, like in real time, we can't really tell what's happening, but we'd known that there's a lot of hot heads, a lot of tempers are flying, and you just see Cuzzy talking with the Giants, and so you're like, what the hell was happening there? So given all that had happened in today's game, we end up having a pool reporter who talks to crew chief Dan Bellino. And as far as the Bohm at bat, Bellino says umpires are free to award a timeout to hitters at their discretion. As far as when Hicks was walking off the mound and chirping at the Phillies dugout and Cuzzy got in the middle of it, that was Cuzzy just trying to defuse the situation. Now, as far as the Lee and Cuzzy, not altercation, but that whole kerfuffle, in real time, Bellino says that Cuzzy thought Lee was trying to challenge. And then as far as what happened after the game, he said a couple Giants were asking about it, and Cuzzy provided his own explanation of what happened. Cuzzy had told Lee in that scrum after the game that it was bad timing to do what he did. And Lee's kind of just like, I don't speak English. I don't know what's happening. So it's very, I hope that's making sense as I describe it. I wrote it. I think it makes more sense when you read it in the story. But what a game this ended up being. And there's been a couple memorable and interesting games over the course of this road trip so far. But a lot of hotheads, a lot of tempers flaring today. Also, I want to just state this too. The fact that the Giants have now had 2 getaway days that start in the middle of the afternoon is just so odd to me from a scheduling perspective. Now, the one they had in Houston, it's a little more justifiable in the sense that you're not flying across the entire country. It's the middle of the country, but still. But this one, a 4 o'clock getaway day when the Giants have to play the Angels tomorrow, it's not ideal from a scheduling perspective, and I would imagine that there's no shortage of Giants who are happy with the fact that they're going to have to fly cross-country. They're probably going to get into the airport at like 1 or 2 in the morning, so we'll see if there's any carryover effect with that as they play the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim of Orange County tomorrow. I won't be there for that series, so I will rejoin you all on Monday at Oracle Park as the Giants play the Brewers.